I marked 11 entries on this Bitcoin chart, swing lows I would have taken if I had been paying attention, marked in hindsight months after the fact. Then, I handed the timestamps to Claude and asked one question. What did these 11 bars have in common? It came back with a rule set, measurable conditions across RSI, MACD, Bollinger Band Width Percentile, and a 5-layer moving average stack. Conditions I never specified because I do not actually know what I was pattern matching on when I marked those bars. 6 steps. By step 6, that rule set is a back-tested strategy running on a bot that watches Bitcoin every 12 hours without me. Every prompt and command is in the companion guide, free in the Alpha Cartel Discord, link in the description. Educational only, not financial advice. Nothing here touches real money until the last step. Step 1. Open TradingView, load Bitcoin against USDT, and set the time frame to 12 hours. 12-hour bars give you fewer, cleaner swings and roughly 2 decisions a day instead of 200. Build the indicator stack. 5 moving averages on the price pane, 5 EMA in red, 21 in yellow, 55 in green, the 200 simple moving average in white, 377 EMA in blue. Match those colors exactly. They are how the model tells the lines apart later. Underneath, 3 subpanes. RSI at length 14, MACD at 12, 26, 9, and BBWP on default. Add ATR at length 14 for stop distance. Now scroll back through at least 2 years and find the swings, the major lows where a real move started, the highs where it ended. Not every wiggle. Drop a green vertical line at the bar you would have entered on. Then write every marked timestamp into a plain text file. That file is what the entire build runs on. Screenshot the chart if you want it for context, but the numbers never come from a picture. Step 2. We need real indicator values at those timestamps, so we connect Claude Code to the open-source TradingView MCP server. One command in PowerShell, then restart Claude Code and confirm it shows as connected. The exact command is in the guide. This is the piece most versions of this workflow skip. They upload a screenshot and ask the model what the RSI was. A model cannot read a value off a picture. It looks at the subpane, estimates, and hands you a number that sounds right and is not. The MCP server queries the data directly, so every number in this build is real. With it connected, hand over the timestamp file and ask for 2 tables. First, 1 row per marked bar. RSI, MACD line, signal and histogram. The histogram change from the previous bar, BBWP percentile, ATR, and where price sat relative to each of the 5 moving averages. Second, the same columns across the full history, summarized as median and quartiles. That second table is the one that matters. Without it, you learn the setups happened when RSI was low. With it, you learn the median RSI at your marked bars was 38 against a base rate of 52, and that is the difference between a pattern and a coincidence. Step 3. Set the project instructions first. You are configuring the model as a senior quantitative analyst doing extraction, not invention, with one instruction that matters more than the rest. Report thin evidence instead of filling the gap with something plausible. The full prompt is in the guide, ready to copy. Then the extraction message, pointed at the values file, give it the moving average color mapping, and give it one narrow instruction. Find the conditions common to the marked bars that are rare across the rest of the history, not conditions merely present, conditions that discriminate. If 80% of all bars sit above the 200 simple moving average, that condition tells you nothing, and the spec should say so. The output is a markdown file with entry conditions, exit conditions, stop placement, position sizing, and a discrimination table showing hit rate at your marked bars against the base rate. Step 4. Most versions of this workflow deploy here. Do not, because right now, the spec is a hypothesis fitted to bars you hand-picked yourself. It has never been tested on a single bar you did not choose. Jesse runs locally with an MCP server on port 9700, so Claude Code can write the strategy and run the backtest without you switching windows. Ask it to convert the spec into a Jesse strategy class with one rule. Add nothing that is not in the spec. No extra filters, no improvements. If it thinks something is missing, it says so instead of adding it. Every condition gets a comment quoting the spec line it came from, so drift is visible. Then split the data. Fit period first, the years your marked bars came from. If it fails there, the extraction was wrong, and you go back to step 3. Then the out-of-sample period, recent data you never marked. That second number is the only one that means anything. Write your kill criteria down before you look at results, so you cannot negotiate with yourself afterwards. At least 30 out-of-sample trades, or the sample is too small. Max drawdown under 25%. Out-of-sample performance within reasonable distance of in-sample. If it works on the fitted years and falls apart on the unseen ones, that is overfitting, and it does not matter how good the first column looked. Expect to fail this. The honest outcome of reverse engineering a dozen bars is often a strategy that describes those bars and nothing else. When it happens, you have two moves. Mark more swings across different market regimes, or loosen the single tightest condition and run it again. What you do not do is tune parameters until the numbers go green. Step 5. Execution runs on the WEEX FastMCP server from the previous build in this series, which exposes the WEEX API to the model as a set of tools. Exchange side first. Create a dedicated sub-account rather than trading from your main balance. It caps the blast radius to whatever you fund it with. Create an API key on that sub-account with red and futures enabled and withdrawals switched off. There is no scenario where a trading bot needs withdrawal rights. WEEX gives you a key and a secret, and you define the passphrase yourself. All three go into a local environment file that never enters a repo. Now the architecture, and this is the part worth getting right. The model does not place orders. The model runs on the 12-hour close, evaluates the conditions, and writes a plan file. Direction, entry, stop, target, size, expiry. A small deterministic executor polls that file and fires it. The language model is never in the execution path, so it cannot hallucinate an order, cannot loop, and cannot fire twice. Every entry goes out as one atomic bracket call. Entry, take profit and stop loss together, never as separate calls. Place an entry, and then place a stop, and there is a window where you are holding leverage with no protection, and that window is exactly when a wick shows up. One variable controls the rest. Mode set to paper sends the executor to the local paper engine. Mode set to live sends the same call to WEEX. Same planner, same sizing, same risk gates either way. The only difference is where the last call lands. It stays on paper for the rest of this video. Step 6. Point the dashboard at the paper engine and the whole system is on one screen. A light for every entry condition, the active plan with its expiry countdown, the open position with unrealized R, the risk gates, and the closed trade log with fees included. Watch it for a minimum of 2 weeks on a 12-hour time frame that is about 28 bars and a handful of trades, which is nowhere near enough to judge whether the strategy makes money. And that is not what this is for. You are checking the machine works. Do the condition lights turn on when the chart says they should? Does a plan get written on the bar close? Does the executor fire on it and refuse it correctly once it expires? Does the bracket attach at entry every single time? One word in one file. 6 steps. You marked the entries, the MCP server turned them into numbers, Claude extracted the rules, Jesse tested them on data nobody handpicked, and the WEEX server executes them while you are asleep. Everything from today is in the companion guide, free in the Alpha Cartel Discord, link in the description. If you build it, post your out-of-sample numbers in the channel, including the runs that failed the gate. Those are the useful ones. Educational content, not financial advice. Paper first.